Hello, I'm Oliver Colling, and this is the My 70s TV Childhood quiz. Welcome back to the My 70s TV Childhood quiz, the place where you get to prove your fantastic knowledge of 1970s television, to beat your family and friends and to be hugely competitive over it, if you want to be, of course. It's just for fun, but I do like hearing your stories of how competitive you do get over the quiz. I had a lovely note following the last quiz from Andrea on our blog at www.my70stvchildhood.com. Andrea told me that she and her husband had been doing the quiz together, and one of the questions, if you remember, was who played Claudius in I, Claudius? Andrea immediately piped up with Derek Jacobi, the correct answer, of course, whilst her husband thought it was Frankie Howard. Now, I can sort of see how he got there, Andrea, Roman setting, etc. But I'm pleased that getting I, Claudius mixed up with Up Pompeii caused such amusement for you both. Can you imagine what the show would have been like if Frankie Howard had played Claudius? Or come to that, if Derek Jacobi had taken on the part of Lurcio in Up Pompeii? Both would have been truly memorable, I suspect, in all sorts of different ways. Anyway, thanks for getting in touch, Andrea. And thanks to Russell, one of our regular correspondents, who got in touch via our Facebook page to tell me he scored 18 on the last quiz. Well done, Russell. That is pretty impressive. If you want to get in touch, let me know your score, any other questions about the quiz or suggestions of sorts of rounds we might include in future episodes. You can do so either via the blog, like Andrea did, or via one of our many social media pages. You can also email quiz@my70stvchildhood.com. Okay, enough of the chat. Let's get down to business. And as usual, we have 4 rounds, 5 questions each. As I've said, just for fun, but it's deadly serious at the same time for many of you. So grab yourself a pen and paper and your chosen beverage. It's tea again for me this week. And let's play round 1. And our first round is our spin the wheel round, where I spin our specially constructed Wheel of Fate to choose a year from which I'll ask you some questions. Okay, let's spin the wheel. And we're landing on 1973. Question 1. 1973 was a great year for new comedy shows, but which of these shows didn't start in 1973? Was it A, Whatever Happened to the Likely Lads, B, Some Mothers Do Have 'Em, or C, The Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin? Question 2. In Some Mothers Do Have 'Em, who played Frank Spencer's wife, Betty? Question 3. The school holiday show, Why Don't You, began in the summer of 1973, but what was the full name of the show? What was the full name of Why Don't You? Question 4. Which spin-off from Please Sir ended this year? And question 5. There was a huge worldwide TV audience on November the 14th, 1973, for the royal wedding of Princess Anne to Captain Mark Phillips. There was also a famous episode of Dad's Army shown that night for the very first time. What was the episode called? And there is a clue in the question. How was that for the first round? I think that might have been pretty lenient, so I may have to go back and review the question banks before next episode. Let's go on to round 2. And this is our Fil Rouge round, named in honour of It's a Knockout's marathon round, which became known as the Fil Rouge whenever the show went off to Europe to become Jeux Sans Frontières. And this round makes reference to things that we've featured in previous episodes of the podcast. So don't worry if you're a new listener, you can make a reasonably good guess at most of the questions. Question 1. In our episode, That Was a Public Information Film, way back in October 2020, what came top of my top 10 public information films? Question 2. In our look at quiz shows in April 2021, we remembered Mr. and Mrs. amongst a few others. Who was the host of Mr. and Mrs.? Question 3. In one of our episodes in 2021, we looked back at summer holidays during the 1970s and the sorts of programmes that were on television then. Linked to that, who was the driver of the Cannonball Express? Who was the driver of the Cannonball Express? Question 4. In October 2023, we celebrated the voice behind Trumpton, Camberwick Green and Chigley in the life of Brian, Cant. What did Brian want to do for a job before he started working in an insurance office? So what did he really want to do before he started working in an insurance office? And question 5. Who played the lead in The Adventures of Robinson Crusoe? Another summer holiday programme which we featured in an episode last summer. But who was the lead? Halfway through, and how are we feeling? Are we good, as young people inexplicably say, or are we bad, I suppose? I assume that's the opposite of being good is bad, but maybe I'm just oversimplifying it a bit. Well, let's move on to our next round. Round 3 is our Name That Tune round, inspired by the TV show of the same name, hosted by that great comedic talent, Tom O'Connor. Very simple, this one. Listen to each theme tune, write down the answer, and then I'll go through the answers and you'll find out if you're right. Okay, here's theme tune 1. Theme tune 2. And here's what I think is a reasonably easy one for theme tune 3. And theme tune 4 is one of my favourites. And finally, let's have theme tune 5. Nice mix there, I think, and some cracking tunes. And already here we are at our final round, and this is called TV Times. And this week's TV Times is all about 1970s adverts. So hard luck if your parents only let you watch the BBC. And you may think I'm joking, but that actually happened to one of my friends at school. Her parents insisted that the family watched BBC as they didn't believe in the commercial channel, as they called it. And here we go. Question 1. Which bitter was the pint that thinks it's a quart? Which bitter, according to their advertising slogan, was the pint that think it's a quart? Question 2. The epitome of stereotypical northern scenes, the boy on the bike in the famous Hovis adverts, was actually filmed in the south of England. Where? And if you can name the actual street, you can have a bonus point. Question 3. According to the advert, happiness is a cigar called Hamlet. The mild cigar from who? Question 4. Which 70s sportsman used to splash it all over? And finally, question 5. According to Victor Khayyam, which electric razor guarantees to cut you as close as a blade or your money back? Which electric razor guarantees to cut you as close as a blade or your money back? And I won't try and do the accent. And that's it. 20 questions done and dusted. Now, whilst checking your answers and trying to remember that pesky theme tune that, you know what it is, but you can't quite place, here's the answer to last time's bonus question. I asked you this question. In 1970, ITV staff went on strike for 3 months. However, all TV shows were still broadcast, but with a difference. What was it? And the answer was that in what became known as the colour strikes, ITV staff only made programmes in black and white. How weird is that? This week's bonus question is a very simple one. Lou Grade produced lots of great TV shows in the 1960s and the 1970s, like The Persuaders and The Protectors and Return of the Saint, and he did those at his ITC studios. What does ITC stand for? So what do the letters ITC stand for? Let me know if you got the answer by emailing quiz@my70stvchildhood.com. Okay, let's go back to this week's quiz and here are answers. Round 1. 1973, great year for new comedy shows, but which of the shows didn't start in 1973? It was C, The Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin. In Some Mothers Do Have 'Em, who played Frank Spencer's wife, Betty? Betty. That was awful, wasn't it? It was Michelle Detrice. Question 3, the school holiday show Why Don't You? What was its full name? Well, it's Why Don't You Just Switch Off Your Television Set and Go and Do Something Less Boring Instead? Which always seemed to be a bit weird for a television programme that was trying to encourage us not to watch television. Didn't do much good as far as I was concerned. And question 4, which spin-off from Please Sir ended this year? And that was The Fen Street Gang. And question 5, huge TV audience on November the 14th, 1973 for the Royal Wedding, and a famous episode of Dad's Army was shown for the first time that night, and that was, and there's a clue in the question, The Royal Train, which I have to say is one of my favourite episodes of Dad's Army. Round 2. Question 1. In our episode that was a public information film, who came top of the charts? It was The Tufty Club. Question 2. In our look at quiz shows, Mr. and Mrs. amongst others, who was the host of Mr. and Mrs.? It was the legendary Derek Beatty, who was so nice to all the contestants, even though you'd have people who'd been married for 30 or 40 years and probably didn't even know what their husband was called, never mind anything else. Question 3. The driver of the Cannonball Express was Casey Jones, steaming and rolling. You didn't need to have steaming and rolling in your answer. Casey Jones is the right answer. And question 4, what did Brian Cant want to do for a job before he started working in an insurance office? Well, he was in training to be a professional footballer for Ipswich Town. Can you imagine the difference if had we lost Brian Cant to Ipswich Town instead of getting him for Trumpton? Doesn't bear thinking about. And question 5. Who played the lead in The Adventures of Robinson Crusoe? It was Robert Hoffman. All right, on to our Name That Tune round. First tune was the tune to Teddy Edward, which was always a lovely programme, I thought. Question 2. Here's one that divides our listeners in half based on your reactions. And it's On the Buses. And it divides opinions sharply, with some of our listeners thinking it was wonderful and some of them thinking it was dreadful. Theme tune 3 was, and I think most of you have got this one, Ski Sunday. Question 4, Bagpuss. Question 5, the theme tune was from the sitcom The Fosters. And on to round 4. Which bitter was the pint that thinks it's a quart? It was Whitbread Big Head Trophy Bitter. Question 2. Where was the famous Hovis advert with the boy on the bike actually filmed? Well, it's filmed in Shaftesbury in Dorset. And the name of the street for the bonus point was Gold Hill. Happiness is a cigar called Hamlet, the mild cigar from Benson and Hedges. And question 4. Which 70s sportsman used to splash it all over? Well, it's Henry Cooper in the Brute 33 adverts, although he was occasionally joined by some of his friends, like Barry Sheen, I seem to remember, and others. But it's Henry Cooper is the answer I'm looking for. And finally, which electric razor guarantees to cut you as close as a blade or your money back? It was the Remington Microscreen. Okay, so how did you do this week? Any top of the form full marks, or are you going to have to stay behind for some remedial tuition? Let me know how you did via the blog, via social media, or by emailing quiz@my70stvchildhood.com. Well, that's all for this time's quiz. I hope you've enjoyed it, and that you join me next week for the next episode of the podcast, and in a fortnight's time for our next quiz. In the meantime, thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts, and to join me again soon for more from My 70s TV Childhood and the My 70s TV Childhood quiz.